8 cars that haven't pitted since lap 22 have to peel off. It looks like they're going to go for the restart here, but all of a sudden that championship's going to be wide open. So brace yourself. Here we go.
Keep your eye on that red car, the first all-red car you can see. There it is there. It's Scott Dixon. Let's get ready to go back to racing here at Sonoma. Let's do it. Saavedra, Andretti, and Canaan, they climb the hill first. And watch in the background. The guys who are vying for this championship will be making some pretty slick moves. Already, Dixon tries to work on Gabby Chavez.
And I think Scott Dixon there in the target car only needs to make high percentage moves. Things will come his direction here. He's got to protect the car. If the pass is very high percentage, he'll make it, but he will not take a risk.
Setting one up. And that's a pretty low percentage one right there.
Oh, that was good.
Dive under the inside.
Gabby Chavez got wide in the carousel. He made a good, clean pass. Now he's got a buffer to Newgarden. He'll go to work on Pagenaud. Now Pagenaud gave Scott Dixon a hard time at Mid-Ohio by just going slow enough to hold him up.
To bring him back a little bit. Look how hard Rahaal's working as he tries to make ground on Joseph Newgarden. Thinks about it in this final chicane complex. Can't quite do it. It's been a great day for both those guys. Pit hiccup, though, for Graham Rahal will be costly. Bourdais on the inside of Oriol Servia.
Oh, and there you saw it. Scott Dixon had a look on Pagenaud, but he wasn't sure if the door was going to get slammed. He had to back out.
And look at this, Kimball trying to play the team game as well. Also trying to get in there and muscle Rahal out. You can't imagine what it's like to be a single car team fighting 2 4-car teams, Team Penske and Ganassi, for this title. And they're ganging up on Rahal. Meanwhile, Dixon continues to work away on Simon Pagenaud.
Pagenaud got a little bit loose coming off of that corner, so he might try to get Dixon will make a move here if he can just get the drive touched a little bit of the curbs. That cost him on the exit right there.
Simon Pagenaud is going to have to pit in about the next, 3 or 4 laps here.
Get to wheel 4.
Significant difference in their strategy. Dixon pitted on 35. Look at these guys here. Kimball's not done with Rahal. He's roughing him up. Graham's having nothing of it.
That looked to me like Rahal roughing up Kimball at the corner exit, saying, hey, I'm going for the championship, pal, against your teammate. Get out of the way.
Yeah, nowhere to go for Kimball on the outside of that corner, so it was a pretty brave move by Kimball to even try it, but you got to be careful. You got to keep these wings on the...
Check this out.
So we see Kimball here. Rahal blocks the inside, which leaves the outside open for Kimball, and he's hanging tough, hanging up, and then they start banging wheels right here, and Kimball runs out of room.
Used to do that to me when I was a rookie.
Yeah. That's right.
That's right.
Just remember it.
Joseph Newgarden has been quietly achieving today. Here's Canaan on race leader Saavedra. Yep, and Sebastian gives TK plenty of room.
That's a teammate move there. You know, Sebastian's had a great day so far. He says teammates on fresher tires. He had the move, gave it to him, didn't lose any time switching the orders, so that was a smart move by Saavedra.
How do you reckon those arms and shoulders of Oriol Servias are feeling at the moment?
No, I begged him to take 5 Advil before the race because I know firsthand what that's like to come off the couch totally unprepared, last-second call, and a big salute to Oriol Servia for taking on the challenge and recognizing just such an outstanding person in Justin Wilson and doing it for the family.
Gabby Chavez is the first to dive there. You saw him just come to pit road. So he last pitted on lap 22 as we race lap 46. We're over the halfway mark.
So as these guys pit, Saavedra, Andretti, Bourdais, they're all going to pit in the next lap or two. We're going to watch the championship scenario change. Right now, Graham Rahal would be only 10 points back, Dixon only 15 back, but that's going to change quickly here with each pit stop.
Where is Juan Pablo Montoya? 22nd. Where is Will Power? 23rd. We ride with Montoya now. A collision between the two Penske teammates right here at this corner. And that's the view.
And there's Will Power hanging on to the tail there out back. And look at that. Look at Power lose the downforce that far back going into the carousel.
I'll tell you what, with the Penske team with 3 cars in the top 5 in the championship and 3 of those cars eligible to win, if they don't pull this off, that will be a monumental letdown for the end of the season.
And guys, here's the tough part. These cars are all the way in the back. It's extremely difficult to pass here at Sonoma. In fact, Tim Cindric told Will Power a moment ago, you have your worst set of tires on right now. Just manage them as best you can. But Townsend, the task for these guys trying to pass their way up through some cars and maybe get to the front. Obviously, with Montoya keeping the championship in the back of the mind, that's a monumental task, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's next to impossible unless the guy in front makes a huge mistake. Oh, whoa, as we see Munoz get into the wall with the left rear in a battle for position with Vautier, I believe that is. Doesn't look like he has the white-walled left rear, Paul, so maybe that was just dust flying up between.
He stuffed it down the inside and ran really wide and was trying to put the power down, and obviously kept it down until he used the wall to stop going any further.
Guys, I won't name names, but there were 3 people who told me on pit lane earlier this weekend who are from teams in championship contending positions, said, you know who we're watching more than anybody this weekend? Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon could spoil our championship hopes. And he sits in the most prominent position of those who pitted most recently, of the top running guys. There he is. If Dixon wins this race, Ray Hall is immediately eliminated. If Dixon wins this race, Montoya needs to finish 6th, with Dixon having the bonus points. Any worse than 6th, it's Dixon's 4th championship.
And you asked me to pick a wild card before the start of the race. What did I say?
Did you say Dixon?
I said Dixon. Well, and for good reason. Why? Because every championship of the last 10 years, he's a factor.
And
he's always there.
He's chased him down from behind,
always.
too. He's never been the leader all the way through. He always comes from behind. So this is a guy who fights and fights and fights till the checkered flag drops.
And he just doesn't make the big mistake. You just never see him in those contacts like we saw with the restart, or getting flustered, or big hand movements behind the wheel. He is just always in the zone and in the window for optimal performance.
Oh, Sebastian Bourdais on the inside of Marco Andretti, turn 7, whoa, way wide. As they continue their individual fight, we're waiting on the likes of Saavedra, Bourdais, Andretti, and Servia, even Pagano and Sato to dive for pit road. And that is going to change the complexion of this championship massively in favor of Scott Dixon and Graham Rahal. We'll update you when that happens. We're fast approaching lap 50 of this 85 lapper. There's Saavedra and Andretti. They're both on the same strategy. So too Servia and Sato.
Now we get to see the championship points situation, Kevin.
Sebastian Saavedra coming in. You see Marco Andretti right behind him as well. Saavedra running in 2nd position, but he's going to have to stop one more time. As far as Marco Andretti is concerned, they're going to reds this time. Going to do a short stint and a longer stint on the final stint on blacks.
With those guys cycling through for their respective stops, how big did that change the championship? Down to 4 points. The difference between Montoya and Rahal, and Dixon only 9. This thing is getting more and more interesting with every lap.
And it'll change again here shortly as Cadon, Bourdais, and Pagano have stops coming up.
Look at that. Remember, he being Juan Pablo Montoya, came into this championship finale with a 34-point advantage. Montoya still sits buried in 17th place, Power 18th, languishing down in the teens with a whole lot of work to do after that pretty innocent spin. There was a little confusion there between the teammates. Montoya tagged Power, who ran wide through turn 4. He went around. There was damage on both cars. And how costly will that damage be? Bourdais now cycles through. Likewise, Pagano. And that with those guys coming in and cycling through, Scott Dixon at the moment is the new championship leader.
with Graham Rahal only 3 points to the back, and now Montoya would run third in the championship as they run right now.
If you haven't been with us all season long as Bourdais gets serviced and sent, here's Pagenaud.
And the points will cycle again. Pagenaud gets a wing adjustment. Cars haven't not been that bad. 8-7 on the stop for these guys. Remember, he lost all that track position earlier, stopping to let his teammate Will Power out. Simon Pagenaud pits here at lap 49.
If you haven't been with us all season long, there's a very simple story thread. Montoya has been the championship leader from the very first race to now. And it's changed. Scott Dixon, for the first time in 2015. This man right here holds the point advantage, racing lap 50 of 85.
And he is saving fuel. You can hear him lift off the throttle and coast big time going into that brake zone. And he will have to save fuel to make it on one more stop. Listen to that.
Smooth and the king at saving fuel. And he knows what it's like to stand in this position. He's done it 3 times. Quick reminder that next weekend, NBC is going back in time with a full weekend of NASCAR racing from Darlington, and a tribute to the 70s. Coverage begins at Saturday at 3 Eastern with the Xfinity Series race, Sprint Cup Sunday at 7. NASCAR on NBC, that 70s tribute. I've seen Marty Snyder's stick-on sideburns and safari suit. Can't wait to see it. This battle's been going on for quite a while. Charlie Kimball, Graham Rahal. Watch this.
Kimball's always ultra-aggressive, as well as Graham Rahal. And look at that, down the inside, almost some contact as they turn in. But that was smart of Graham just to not get too tangled up in that.
Well, Kimball knows that every point he can score ahead of Graham Rahal helps Scott Dixon as we come down the stretch.
Dixon's already got a bonus point for leading a lap. The most laps led in this race, Will Power at 26. Dixon would dearly like to get that, and he can. hanging in there as we ride again with Rahal. Points have fluctuated again massively just on pit stop rotation. Dixon would lead this championship at the moment to the tune of 20 over Montoya.
So many. Montoya trying to slice his way back through the field. He's behind Jakes. He's got Munoz in front of him. Jakes all sideways out of the corner, so he can't mess around with these guys. These guys have nothing to lose and everything to gain by trying to stay in front of Montoya.
But Montoya has to mess around with these guys because right now it's not going to happen where he runs. He's going to have to make positions.
We see Castroneves just up in front of Juan Montoya as we get later down into the race. Will there be team orders now that Castroneves has had some problems? Is he going to help his teammate? This is all playing out. We've got team tactics with Kimball helping his teammate. You know, the Ganassi guys are all working in unison for Dixon to win the championship, and we still have the Penske guys have been fighting each other and the contact with power, which has affected Montoya's championship bid.
Now he has a run. Montoya comes up the tail of Jakes, goes to the inside. This should be a clean pass.
It's a key overtaking point on this Sonoma Raceway circuit, and fairly straightforward there for Montoya. Every position counts big time for the Colombian. Jakes looks like he was going to come back there on Montoya. About it again. Dixon leads to the tune of 4.1 seconds over Joseph Newgarden and then Charlie Kimball. So two Ganassi cars in the top three. Then Rahal, Briscoe, Hunter-Reay, Coletti, and
Hawksworth. This is another move. He lined that one up perfectly.
Easily done.
Whoa, and further back, Will Power defending on Kanaan. That was close to some contact.
Team tactics right here. Kanaan's got nothing to lose. He's not in the championship fight, so he's going to fight these Penske guys as hard as he can.
They have just turned it on in support of their teammate Scott Dixon.
Yeah, look at Saavedra right there. He's gonna press onto Power as well. Look at this.
Well, Kanaan's job now is try to pass Jakes and Munoz and get to Montoya.
Montoya is in 11th. And he's reduced that gap with those two moves on Dixon's championship lead, provisional championship lead, to 16.
I can't imagine what it's like for Montoya to have led all season, and now he's the one chasing the points.
Crazy, isn't it? Here we go, Saavedra on the inside. Yep. The Ganassi guys are ganging up on Team Penske.
No room out there. You got to be careful. Saavedra has nothing to lose at all.
Looks like Munoz is really struggling. Here comes Kanaan.
Final 30 laps of this race right now. 30 laps left in the 2015 season. Jakes and Munoz. Kanaan gets a good view of that, and he might get a good run off this corner.
He's going to get both of them here around
the outside. 2 for 1. If he can stay to the outside, he'll have the advantage in turn 2. Whoa, that's tight.
That's brave.
All the way.
That is brave right there.
40-year-old Tony Kanaan. There is no stopping him.
That was a great drive.
Yes, it was. So Tony Kanaan with another position gain. He's into 12th. What do you think of that, Robin Miller?
Well, he drives pretty aggressive for a 40-year-old lead, but he said before the race, you know, I just want to get to the 100 Indy 500 next year, so I hope Chip hires me. And he said it's looking pretty good for next year, being back with Team Ganassi. So I think we'll see that announcement here pretty quick.
Bourdais made very quick work of Munoz. Here comes Saavedra. He's not done with yet. Saavedra and Andretti have had a good race today together, haven't they?
Oh, it's been a terrific battle. As Saavedra gets to the inside of Munoz, Andretti looks to follow, and he'll have the position.
Scott Dixon.
Good job there, buddy. Great job. Good fuel number last lap as well. 30 to go.
If he is in fuel-saving mode, which you imagine he is, here he is. He's doing a Mid-Ohio. He's in fuel-save mode, but he's gaining. He's putting time on his opponents. As we pick up the Chevrolet driver update, where those top guys are placed. 1, 2, 3. It's as simple as that. And Dixon now boasts a 5-second lead. Oh, it's getting scrappy back here, isn't it?
Yeah. Power's really having trouble. He's getting attacked by Bourdais. He's got Saavedra all over him on the outside, so he's on his worst tires of the weekend and really paying the price for it now.
Marty?
and those tires flat, worn out. Tim Cindric said you have to keep these guys behind you. Use push to pass, use your overtake, whatever you need to keep all ththose guys behind you. But, you know, PT, it's tough when those guys are on the newer tires. It's almost impossible with all the tire degradation we're seeing this weekend.
Well, and trying to push to the limit and use the push to pass makes the tires even worse. So it's a double whammy. The harder you try to keep the guys behind you, the harder it is to keep the tires under it.
Now, Kanaan has closed on Montoya. Montoya's being held up by Gonzalez. And now, if Kanaan can get to Montoya, that could cause big headaches.
And we have seen in the past that Rodolfo Gonzalez can make that Dale coin car pretty wide.
He's there.
Kanaan on the inside of Montoya. Into that final chicane.
Through here.
Whew.
Wow.
That was a smart move by Kanaan to go to the inside in the dirt. He knew that they were going to have contact. Montoya turned in on him, and he said, I'm not going to make contact, but he gets by here.
Ganassi on Penske. Just like that. Kanaan, Kimball, Saavedra, and Dixon putting on quite the display for Chip Ganassi today.
Kanaan could have easily booted Montoya out of the way, and he decided to take the dirt.
And I'll call that taking the high road here.
And if you're wondering why Juan Pablo Montoya is back in the field, it's because of this. Contact with his teammate earlier in the race. Both himself and Will Power, his teammate, back in the field, playing the catch-up game. However, that catch-up has come to a standstill because the likes of Kanaan, etc., and now Bourdais are all ganging up on Montoya. The guy who's led the championship the entire year suddenly finds himself in an inferior position. James Jakes off at the carousel.
Looks like he just narrowly avoided hitting anything as Kanaan gets around Gonzalez there. Jakes is back on track. Somebody else is off there down at the chicane.
Looks like Graham's got some kind of problem going on here. He just got passed by.
I wonder if Graham went off the track.
I can't break anywhere because I'm just going to spin.
Graham's saying, I can't break anywhere else, I'm just going to spin. I think the rear tire degradation issue he's been dealing with all day, he's been loose everywhere, and he's certainly going to have that on the brakes too, locking up rears. You can see it there.
Loose in, yeah. Locked the rears on entry. He was correcting, could never even attempt to turn into the corner. So his rear tires are gone.
This is an area of the track where the PT just pushing them into that final chicane, and it's been a real handful to arrest the speed.
I'll tell you what, I don't think that was a tailwind. That was like McDowan backing it into the corner with the rear end stepped out. That's what that was.
Dixon, 6.5 seconds to the good at the top of this field. And he will be due to come in. Here he is. Let's talk more about Scott Dixon with Katie Hargett. Katie?
Yeah, Lee, Scott's team just came over the radio and said, we're still a ways away from a pit stop, but tell us about the car. Scott said, the car is perfect. They said, great deal. Just stay on cruise control and keep working those fuel numbers as hard as you can.
It's a point that you could argue, but I don't think there's anybody better in Indycar at saving fuel and running up front than Scott Dixon. Second place, Joseph Newgarden for CFH Racing on pit road. He's had a brilliant race today. It's not enough at the moment for him to do anything about this championship victory. However, he's en route to his best championship result in his young IndyCar career. Marty?
And Lee, you mentioned the terrific drive for Joseph Newgarden. He's kept it in the top 5 the entire day. In fact, run second for much of this afternoon. They had talked about, Kimball's already gone, a wing adjustment here. He waved that off. They're going to put as much Sunoco fuel as they can.
Oh!
He stalls it. He stalls it. They're going to have to pull it back and crank it back up. You
fire!
Going by here. Fire on the
hang
car
on.
as well. They're going to put that out. They have gotten the fire taken care of, and now they're going to crank the car up, and this is a disastrous pit stop for the scene. This morning, Joseph and I were talking about they've had the speed all year long. What they have lacked is execution. This is another example of that. This certainly helps the Penske teams, though. They're still trying to get this 67 car cranked up, trying their best to get it cranked up, and cannot get it done for Joseph Newgarden. Their hands are in the air as if they cannot get it done. And Scott Dixon now coming down pit road. So this is a very interesting turn of events here in this race.
Matches the stint done by Oriol Servia at some 27 laps.
Be careful with Dixon coming down the pit lane with these guys pushing the car.
Very hard to start these cars like that.
Scott Dixon comes in from the lead, and he would win his very fourth championship. He just needs a good, clean stop, filled up with Sunoco fuel, and he's down and away.
Smooth and efficient.
Help him out, Robbie.
Just like that. Is that Scott Dixon's final stop before he becomes a 4-time champion? It would seem so, but this race has had some interesting twists and turns.
This will be the final stop for Graham Rahal, and he's been on the radio saying this is stupid, meaning that his rear tires were gone, but they had to wait for this window to open. Look to see if they take out more front wing. These are brand new sticker red. There you go. Take out some front wing, and he saved these tires. As far as I know, there are very few people who have sticker brand new red alternate Firestones to use, but he's got a lot of ground to make up.
Well, he'll be super fast on his outlap as we see Newgarden still stuck on pit lane. Guys, how many times have we seen this? I mean,
I don't understand
why
they can't get the starter plugged into. What happened?
They might have stripped the nut.
Yeah, stripped it out.
And look at this, not only has the target car got clean air, he's got his teammate behind him. Now, finally, Joseph Newgarden's GoPro machine for CFH Racing gets going.
Points again has swung the other way. Now Montoya's in the lead.
Well, I think that's about to update as soon as Dixon crosses the line.
Ryan Hunter-Reay on pit road.
And he will come and get some Sunoco fuel as well. But again, you want to get it topped off all the way to the top, and this will take you to the end. Ryan Hunter-Reay, we've talked about the way that the momentum has shifted, the way the car has been so much better than when they couldn't get it going on road and street courses earlier in the season. And you can watch, so interesting when you see that display change. Kevin?
Final pit stop of the season for Juan Pablo Montoya, who has led from the opening, but it's slipping away here. He needs to work his way up to 6 somehow to score enough points, and Dixon wins. He's taking the primary Firestones. Montoya away, hoping that those that pitted a couple laps earlier maybe can't make it to the end of its day's green, but we think they're going to be good.
Marco Andretti makes his final stop. Yeah, that last stint from Scott Dixon is very telling. As we fast approach the last 20 laps, Dixon went for 27, including caution, of course. But here he is. Clear air, clear track, and a teammate right behind. He couldn't ask for it to be any better. The 3-time champion. He's already created his own special piece of IndyCar history. Is he about to do more? you didn't see this at home, James Jakes has just taken a wild ride. You see his car down the bottom of the screen there. Obviously, the Englishman is okay. And let's show you what will be a pretty frightening ride. Look mid-screen. Look to the right. Look to the right.
And that does not look like a guy that just lost it under braking. Something went wrong there, Paul.
Yeah, he came on the radio and said he had brake failure. So the car did a hard left-hand turn into the wall. So he was not going to stop. And it just lost control.
Almost looked like the front brakes failed on him.
All right, so we're under yellow for the third time today. Scott Dixon is your race leader and is good to go on fuel and tires to the very end. There will be a mad dive for the pits for some. For others, however, like Juan Pablo Montoya, who recently pitted before this yellow, it's going to help the driver of the number 2 Team Penske Chevrolet, and it's going to tighten up this scenario for Scott Dixon.
Yeah, right now Montoya sits 17th on the track, but there's about 6 people in front of him that I think are going to duck for pit lane. I think he'll move up to about 11th here.
Stay with me here. It's a little bit complex. If Dixon wins and gets 3 bonus points, which if he leads for another 13 laps, he will get all 3 bonus points. If he wins with the 3 bonus points and Montoya finishes 6th, they'll be tied. But Dixon will win it on a tieback of wins.
Do you mind texting?
On a countback of wins.
Can you text that to me? Just I can't do the math like you can.
You're more than capable. So we'll see. Like we said right at the very top of the show at IndyCar Live, so many championship permutations, combinations for everybody. One thing's for sure, over these final 20 laps, it's sure going to be interesting. Championship day here in Sonoma in Northern California. Isn't that a sight? So we came in today with 6 contenders for this Verizon IndyCar Series Championship. Graham Rahal was one of the favourites, sitting second coming into today's final race. It's been a frustrating day for Rahal so far, highlighted by this. Have a listen.
I don't know what's going on, guys, and I'm sorry. I wish I could help the rear of this car. This car is just absolutely unbelievably bad today. I mean, I almost spun in the hairpin going 20 miles an hour, not even on throttle.
It has been a tough one for Graham, that's for sure. He will soldier on as we show you the Chevrolet driver profile. And he will continue to do the best he can. So, speaking of some of the Chevrolet drivers, look at these guys. Elio, JP, World Championship winning giants, we should say.
There's a black flag, Lee, for somebody there. I don't know if you noticed that at timing and scoring, but they were given a very pronounced black flag to somebody there in the top 5 or 6. Anyways, points as they run.
And how they have changed. We understand it was the 4 of Stefano Coletti receiving the black flag, and we understand he has lost radio communication with his team. So, what do you make of this one, Paul Tracy?
This is an unbelievable event for the Ganassi team. They've got all 4 of their cars now in front of Montoya, so it's going to make it extremely difficult for the Penske team to really do anything because they've got to fight all the rest of the teammates to Dixon.
And while there was a pretty harsh crash suffered by one of the Schmidt-Peterson entries in James Jakes, how about Ryan Briscoe? Has very quietly snuck his way up into 4th position. Here he is in the Arrow machine. And he's on the same sequence, the same strategy as Scott Dixon, the race leader, last pitted at lap 62. These cautions will help. Well and truly can make it to the end, no worries. And that will be a nice result. Remember Ryan's role this year of filling in for the injured James Hinchcliffe. Hinch is here, incidentally. And looking forward to getting into a car maybe even before the end of the year. His rehab continues. He's over his final surgery. I have to say, from when we first saw Hinch return to the track at Toronto to now, he looks so much healthier.
Oh, it's terrific. He's got his color back. He's enthusiastic. But this guy now is really under pressure to just pull a rabbit out of his hat, Paul, here on this restart.
Yeah, not get in trouble. You can't do anything silly. You know, that last restart with power, that was, not a smart move to have that happen, especially to both of them. So let's see what happens here.
Ready to go. Scott Dixon will lead this field to green. It's the end of the 3rd. Yellow. Let's go. Canard pops out of the inside right alongside Ryan Briscoe. What a move that was. That's a power move from Tony Canard on Briscoe.
Our 2 dark horses, you picked Dixon, I picked Hunter-Reay. 1-2 right now, so let's see what happens.
Roll up your sleeves because we're going to battle here to the finish. This is great stuff here. And what a pass by Kanaan. He did it on the outside earlier. Now he went to the inside, and Hunter-Reay gets wide there, exiting turn 5.
Throws a blanket of dust over the rest of the field. Everybody got through fine. Look at Montoya looking racy back there. He does not want to be there. Back in that 11th position, he climbed to 10th. Now doing the chasing. Up the hill to the hairpin. Key overtaking point, couldn't quite do it. Oh, the ABC machine there. Oh,
that's
that was Jack Hawksworth.
On Munoz, and Munoz is going to be beached. This will be a yellow.
Another yellow. Hey, listen, we saw the ABC supply car there of Jack Hawksworth involved in that, and Takuma Sato went around the outside.
He's not going to go anywhere.
As Munoz will need to be rescued. That was Paul Ziggy Harkis, his engineer, saying, keep your foot in it, but he's going to need to be buried. Speaking of the AJ Foyt Racing team and the ABC Supply guys, we want to say thank you and farewell to Don Halliday, legendary engineer, friend of so many people, Dario Franchitti's first race engineer. He will be leaving the sport on a full-time basis, leaving Foyt after an amazing career spanning more than 3 decades.
They're going to try to keep this under green and keep this local, so these guys are going to be down to the hairpin pretty quick, and if they don't get that car, oh, here we go, full course now. So they waited a little bit to try to get that car, but that was going to be dicey.
It was going to take the world's strongest man competition to move that thing. Kevin?
Keep in mind, this is 2 more spots for Juan Pablo Montoya. This championship is not done yet. John Boslog on his radio just told him a moment ago, we think Dixon's going to get all the bonus points. We're probably looking at 5th. One of the things he said all along is that Montoya has been great all year at continuing to fight no matter where they're at, and that's what he reminded him of. Keep doing what we've been doing. And here's some other conversation a moment ago on the radio.
The car is terrible right now, so I think, it's not that I'm giving up, but it's freaking impossible,
Car is a handful, in a nutshell.
Well, we've got a Chevy car in front of him. If there's any type of manufacturer tactics, Ray Hall's struggling. He says he can barely keep it on track. If he can, it's 2 positions he's got to get.
If he gets up to 5th, even if Dixon wins with the bonus points, if Montoya gets to 5th, he will win this championship. So while we're under yellow, let's get you up to speed if you're just turning on with a race recap of this championship decider. Graham Rahal was in the thick of it right from the start, starting on the 3rd row of the grid. Look at this scramble. Contact there with Scott Dixon. He was on his way through from position 9, and Kanaan wanted to gang up on him as well. It was a pretty frantic start, but nobody crashed on that opening lap. A bizarre incident in pit lane on lap 14.
Simon Pagenaud holds up on pit lane, just stops to help out his teammate, but that forces Newgarden to sit and wait before he can launch.
The first yellow of the day came on lap 32, and Paul Tracy, you were surprised by this.
Yeah, it was really an odd yellow because the car was running. He limped all the way around, and they threw the full course yellow, and that really upset Tim Cindric.
What about this? Team Penske, Montoya and Power, teammates collide, and this had a huge impact.
I've done that before, and that does not make the captain very happy.
So Montoya was forced to pit road for a new front wing assembly. Both he and his teammate from Team Penske came in Will Power, and then this most recently with Joseph Newgarden from 2nd position in the race.
Oh, just the worst of all circumstances. He stalls the car trying to leave, then it catches on fire, then they can't get the car to start with the manual starter. They try to push start it, just a disaster for Newgarden.
James Jakes for Schmidt-Peterson had this crash. I can tell you that James is all right, but it was frightening at the end of the back straight. 2nd to last caution. We're now under our 4th full course yellow for a total of 13 laps. It's been kind of a stop-start affair, the second half of this race. Let's get it to Katie.
Lead Scott Dixon told me before this race they needed a lot of luck to fall their way in order to win this championship, and that luck has fallen their way with great pit stops and the yellows as well. You heard me say earlier that Scott told his team his car was great. Now his team just came over the radio and said, we don't need you to save any more fuel. Lee?
So he can go full attack mode to the end, the closing 14 laps. Not only of this race, but the 2015 championship. It's Ganassi versus Penske. Who will come out on top?
And as things run right now, I think as you said earlier, Montoya has to get to 5th. Now, interesting, who does he have to pass? He's got to pass Bourdais straight up on blacks.
A Honda, Rahal, who's struggling.
Rahal's on reds. Briscoe is on reds. And I think under these temperatures and these conditions, it's going to be awfully hard, especially as bad as Rahal says his car is, but Montoya's car is not very good either.
Right. So you've got a Chevrolet in Bourdais and 2 Hondas in Rahal and Briscoe.
Yep. But Chevrolet right now is leading the championship with Dixon.
So, there you go. There are you guys. And there is the championship hopeful right there, Montoya.
But things are not just in isolation with that group with Montoya. What if Hunter-Reay can pass Dixon on a restart? That changes things incredibly.
Absolutely. Dixon has been very effective on the restarts, though. Paul, you've been impressed with that. He's skipped away a couple of times very nicely.
Yeah, Dixon has been in control now for the second half of the race. So he's full fuel now. He's got good tires under him. He's in control. Hunter-Reay's not going to do anything silly. The danger zone here is Kimball, Kanaan, Briscoe, Rahal, Bourdais. These guys they're all fighting for a good finish.
And look at the black buildup. The tire marbles blow off their tires there as they accelerate to try to clean them. That's what makes these restarts so tough late in the race, is the pickup on the tires.
If you're going to see one thing happen, one thing for sure, in addition to Scott Dixon just giving it hammer time, is Charlie Kimball and Tony Kanaan gang up on Ryan Hunter-Reay. 3 Ganassi cars in the top 4 positions. Get ready to go. The championship coming to a close, and we see the green flag at Sonoma. Scott Dixon wants to get away from Ryan Hunter-Reay, get out in some clear space, get away, and consolidate this spot at the top. Montoya, the red and white car, right there, chasing Sebastian Bourdais.
Wow, look at the gap that Dixon put on Hunter-Reay in 2 corners. That is impressive.
He got told, you're good for fuel, go for it to the end. He's on maximum attack. There's the man now second in the championship. It feels so unfamiliar to say. Montoya doing the chasing in this championship for the first time this year.
Oh, Graham Rahal getting really ragged on the outside there, trying to hang on to that steak and shake machine.
Don't forget,
here comes Bourdais.
We got 12 laps to go. These guys were pitting from fresh tires as Bourdais making a move on Rahal. Montoya looking. But these guys have got a lot of laps to go, and these tires are already used, so there's going to be tremendous fall off in about 5 to 6 more laps.
Has no impact up front on this race or the championship. Jack Hawksworth delivered a drive-through penalty for avoidable contact with Carlos Munoz. Dixon, Hunter-Reay, Kimball, Kanaan, Briscoe, Rahal, Bourdais, and Juan Pablo Montoya. Can the Colombian get to a top 5 position?
And it doesn't look like he has much to attack with, Montoya. It looks like he's just going to see, man, does somebody make a big mistake in front of me, because he just doesn't have the grip at the back of that Verizon Chevy.
Guys, I've known Scott Dixon for many, many years. He has been in a very different mood this weekend. He's very serious about what he does. Of course he is, as a 3-time champion. But he enjoys a joke, and more often than not, he's quite lighthearted. I don't think I've seen him so pensive in quite some time. No doubt there is the Justin Wilson effect on that. And he's racing with a heavy heart for Justin. But I think
11 to go.
That he knew somewhere deep down that he was a serious chance at winning this. And it was a very different Scott Dixon than I've seen in a long time.
See the back of Graham's car looking back at Bourdais. Bourdais has a little slip there and fell back.
Well, Graham Rahal might say his car is terrible, but nobody else around him has anything better. They are all hanging on, especially to the back of the car, everywhere.
And Juan Pablo Montoya unable to do anything about the guys ahead. And right behind him is Will Power.
And we know how badly Will Power just wants to win. He doesn't keep track of points anymore. He just wants to win races. So how much is Penske telling Power, just, you got to stay there. You've got to just protect Montoya.
You know what? There's a pretty good drive going on behind these guys by Dale Coyne Racing's Rodolfo Gonzalez. He's good on fuel to the end, and he's in the 11th position, just behind Takuma Sato. Nice effort, nice run. Has not done the entire season, and is in a really good points gaining position. So Dixon leads, and if this man we see here in the Verizon Chevrolet right there, Juan Pablo Montoya, he needs to get to a top 5 spot to win this championship. 10 laps to go, and time is running out.
Paul, Montoya knows, okay, I've got to get to 5th now. I've got to pass 3 cars, but I mean, how does he do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really difficult to pass here. You've almost, the guy in front of you has got to let you by. Bourdais looking to cap his season off with another good result and to finish in the championship as he takes a little look at Rahal, but Rahal's hanging on. He wants to beat Montoya in the championship, so, you know, we're under 10 laps to go now. Time is running out.
You heard Montoya tell John Boslog, his engineer strategist, I don't think my car's that good. It's pretty terrible, to be honest. I'm doing the best I can. He said, I'm not giving up, but it's a handful. 9 laps to go now here in Sonoma to decide this 2015 championship. Can you imagine leading the series every step of the way for 15 races and seeing it evaporate at the final opportunity? Rahal, that defensive inside line. Bourdais thinks about it. Oh! And hits it!
That'll help.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't let Sato get by Montoya. So that could be 2 positions. There has to be damage on Bourdais' front wing.
And that could move Montoya to 6. 1 position
and
from the championship.
And a full course yellow as well.
Looking closely at Bourdais' wing. No full course yellow. Bourdais' wing looks to be intact. I wonder if it was just the nose that just squarely hit the back of Rahal. But remember, will Bourdais get a penalty?
He might get a drive-through.
Yeah, that's clearly an avoidable contact because he was a whole car length back, outside, inside, and then squared him up.
Oh, yeah. I think we're going to see a penalty. I think
way
Montoya
that can't be a penalty.
Montoya moved to 6th.
And if Montoya finishes 6th, we've heard from race control that's under review. They're looking at it as we speak. If Montoya gets to 6th, it still won't be enough because Dixon will win on a countback of victories. They'll be in a tiebreaker situation.
Tell you what, Montoya was lucky that Graham stayed on the brake and didn't roll back into him further.
I don't know if Graham stayed on the brake at all. He was rolling. He was looking at Montoya coming by. Wow, look at that. 2 points.
As they run. That's with Montoya in 7th. If that car up ahead, the Hydroxycut machine, gets a penalty, a drive-through, or anything, it puts Montoya into 6th, an agonizing 6th. If Dixon wins, as of this lap right now, Dixon gets all those bonus points for leading the most laps and leading a lap. And if he can go on and win this race, Montoya needs to be in 5th.
I cannot believe that Sebastian's car doesn't have damage on the front. As soon as you touch one of these cars, something happens to them. And no damage, so this is going to be really interesting to see what race control does.
Oh, there is damage.
Yeah, a little damage.
Right front end fence is rubbing on the ground.
I think he learned that move from me. I did that to him a few times in our careers together.
That would be the famous
That's
chrome
the
horn.
chrome horn right there.
And you saw that points differential double because Dixon had just been awarded the 2 points for leading the most laps in this race, 27 laps over Will Power's 26.
So Lee, here's the challenge now. Let's say Bourdais gets a drive-through penalty. There's still a 3-second gap that he has to make up on Briscoe to get even close enough to make a pass. So we understand that Dixon would just receive the bonus.
And he already has. So he gets 1 bonus point for leading a lap, 2 bonus points for leading the most laps, and the win. It puts he and Montoya in a tiebreaker situation, but Dixon has more wins on the season.
That's if Montoya can get to...
No,
4 days off.
If Montoya's in 6th, he needs to get to 5th to put it beyond doubt, even if Dixon wins. That's what the crucial move is here for Montoya. But he's about 3 seconds down on Briscoe. As you were just saying, Townsend.
Bourdais got wing damage and still able to pull away from Montoya. He went off at the chicane and has pulled back away. So now Montoya is really struggling.
Montoya and his team should be pleading for that penalty because every lap that Bourdais out there struggling.
11 drive-through penalty for avoidable.
Drive-through for Bourdais. This moves Montoya 1 position closer. Can you believe after 16 races, this championship will be decided this way? Agonizingly close, either way, whichever way it goes.
But Montoya's going to have to make a storming drive to make up that gap. He has 6 laps to make up 3.5 seconds.
Hey, push him.
This is really hurting Montoya. Bourdais limping, and that gap to Briscoe growing.
Coming around.
Bourdais off again.
Oh, don't go back on in front of him. Okay. Professionally lets Montoya by. Now Montoya, head down. You have to string together the best 5 laps of your life.
Let's give you the time split as Bourdais serves his penalty. Montoya runs a little wide. Let's give you the time split from Briscoe back to Montoya as they come across the line. And there it is. So, it's 3.4 seconds. from Ryan Briscoe to Juan Pablo Montoya with 5 laps to go.
And I'm encouraged because Ryan Briscoe is on reds and he's hanging on. Even with Bourdais holding up Montoya, he was faster than Briscoe on that last lap.
Who do you like? Are you in the Dixon camp or the Montoya camp? Who will be crowned champion in 5 laps' time?
And there comes the command from his pit lane. Keep the pressure on. Make Briscoe use those red tires up.
See, Montoya was loose on entry to the carousel. He's pushing to the limit.
That gap is at 3 seconds to Briscoe.
And the point margin has gone to 0. The reason why is Dixon and Montoya are in a tiebreaker situation. Both have won 2 races this year. This would be Dixon's 3rd. He wins on a countback of victories.
Go through the dirt, Juan. He had a lock up on entry. He's pushing, but you run through the dirt and you will cost yourself too much time.
It's comfortable up front for Dixon. 3.7 seconds over Hunter-Reay. There's gap to Kimball. There's gap to Kanaan.
And now, if you really want to get into the minutia, Kimball and Kanaan need to speed up so they help Briscoe stay in front.
4 laps to go. What a finish to the 2015 Verizon IndyCar Series. And this guy here, who's all style, all class, may just spring the surprise from coming from 3rd at the beginning of this race, 47 points down, to do what he has become famous for, coming from behind to be a champion again at the last opportunity.
And that last lap, Montoya took 0.6 out of Briscoe, so the gap is tightening. There's Montoya. Briscoe can easily see him in the mirrors. Montoya is coming.
It's 2.5 seconds from 3.4 a lap ago. Montoya's not done with. If he catches and passes Briscoe, the championship will be Montoya's.
And Briscoe has to be hanging on to that car, running on reds in these high temperatures, all these laps now. Montoya has the advantage, a little bit of lockup. He can't afford to make any mistake. He has to continue to keep the pressure on.
Getting closer. This will be under 2 seconds, I think. When they cross the line, this is as close as he's been. And he can smell the blood in the water. He's got to go after him like he's going after a shark.
That last lap, Montoya, 120.9. Briscoe, 121.3, another 0.4.
3 laps left in this 2015 season. Is it possible for Juan Pablo Montoya, a man who has had an amazing career? He's already an IndyCar champion. He's a 2-time Indy 500 winner, a Monaco Grand Prix winner. He's won the Rolex 24 at Daytona 3 times, and 2 of those 3 were in his first 2 attempts. He is an incredible world-class driver. And it doesn't matter what he is driving, whether it's a NASCAR Sprint Cup car or an Indy car. Can this be the fairy tale for JPM?
Paul, how much chrome does Montoya have in his horn?
The problem he's got is he's got to get there. And I think Kanaan is starting to struggle because Briscoe has closed the gap to Kanaan, and Kanaan could back these guys up.
And he won't want to, but if he has to, meaning he's just hanging on like everybody else, that helps Montoya.
Montoya just seems that agonizing distance too far from Ryan Briscoe, because this time by, there'll be just 2 laps to go. That's Dixon's already got that. He knows that. He's on his way home. Less than 5 miles, and the championship's his.
Now he's 2 seconds back right now, so as you said, Lee, these next 2 laps, it's going to take a lot for him to close the gap.
Can you imagine if Montoya is denied after leading all year by a couple of seconds and 1 pass? Think about, unfortunately for him at Iowa, suspension failure slammed him into the wall. It was a DNF. Other than that, he did everything right this season.
A big sideways off of that turn. He's pushing the car to the limit.
And didn't Montoya's first championship come on a tie? Wasn't that at Fontana with Dario? Remember, they tied, and Dario had the wheel nut issue. So he's won a championship on a tie, and he doesn't want to lose one on a tie.
1.5 laps left here in Sonoma, not even. Scott Dixon is your race leader, and at this point, he's your champion-elect. But there's still another lap to go. Montoya seems to be a little closer to Briscoe. And if you're just turning on, he needs to pass that gold and black car ahead to make sure of this championship. However, that task is getting increasingly harder. One more lap left for Scott Dixon and Chip Ganassi. Do you think there's a pretty good reason why he's Ganassi's longest tenured driver? 14 years driving for Chip. And it's this reason why he always delivers. Montoya can see Briscoe, but he just can't get to him.
Oh, but he's getting close. Long lap to do for Briscoe to hang on to those red tires. They must be shagged.
He's really got two opportunities into the hairpin and into the last corner. He's nowhere near close enough now to even put the bumper to Briscoe, so he's got to get closer.
I'm watching them come out of the carousel. There goes Kanaan. There goes Briscoe. Montoya.
Closer.
Oh, he's going to be close.
He's close. Closing in, getting even closer. So it's going to be the last corner where this happens.
The team will be telling Juan Pablo Montoya, this is it. Give it everything you've got. Go and get that Schmidt-Peterson Honda, and the championship's yours. But time is running out. Scott Dixon into that final corner, and that checkered flag will be waiting.
One last brake zone, and it's going to be next to impossible.
Dixon gets back-to-back wins at Sonoma, but we can't give this championship to him just yet. We wait for the rest to come across the line, and Montoya cannot do it. Scott Dixon not only wins in Sonoma, but wins the 2015 championship.
We win on the tiebreak.
Incredible performance. Winning on a tiebreak. There's Emma, Scott's wife. She can't believe it. Oh, beautiful scenes inside the Ganassi camp. And there's extra emotion here as well. Scott's wife, Emma, is English. Scott driving for Justin Wilson, just like everybody else.
You win on a tiebreaker from Lewis wins.
Thank you, man. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for everything.
And it's also a little cherry on the cake that may not be so little. On top of that icing for Chip Ganassi. Katie, it's Chip's 100th IndyCar Series win. And Dixon, his longest tenured driver, gives it to him.
And his 11th IndyCar championship, his 4th with Scott Dixon. Chip, that came down to the absolute wire.
Well,
what were you thinking during those final laps?
My hat's off to the Penske team. Anytime you race, you beat those guys, you beat them at something. You know you did something in this sport. Those guys are good competitors. Obviously, Juan's a great driver. We know him, and he knows us, and I couldn't be happier for Scott Dixon and the entire team right now. Mike Hall, those guys called a great race.
And I can tell you, Lee, the entire Chip Ganassi team was holding their breath during those final laps.
Unbelievable scenes. I promise you, when Scott comes to victory lane, there will be a lot spoken about for Justin Wilson. Emma has been very supportive for Julia, Justin's wife. And these guys elated. And what a spectacular finish to the 2015 Verizon IndyCar Series. Incredible. He's now a 4-time champion, joining his great friend and former teammate Dario Franchitti, Sebastian Bourdais, and the legend Mario Andretti. Spare a thought, and you got a feel for Montoya. Juan Pablo led the entire way and loses the championship in a tiebreak. He gave it his all.
Yeah, and he looks pretty animated, but I mean, he did everything that he could do today, Paul.
Yeah,
Drove a great race.
Drove a great race. He kept his foot in it. He drove to the end, but that mistake of running into the back of his teammate, damaging the front wing, spelled the downfall for the whole team, for Team Penske.
It was a bizarre circumstance. But the door was open there. I mean, yeah, the door was open.
Look at Scott. He cannot believe it. The race winner is the championship winner.
Taking a moment there to think about it.
Look at Tony Kanaan. He's one of the first in there to congratulate him, and Charlie Kimball as well. Sage Karam.
That's the epitome of teamwork right there. Those guys all worked for Scott Dixon's benefit, and the downfall for Penske is they were all fighting each other to win the championship.
Isn't it amazing? The twists and turns of this championship finale.
He didn't even look that tired. That's what's amazing.
Sunday cruise, really. He was in control from half distance, and it was just pace yourself, and he's the Iceman. He's not even sweating.
What a pro. He's been here so many times before.
It's his 38th career IndyCar win. He was already in rarefied air before today. But Marty, how special is this?
And here he comes. I think, honestly, Lee, he's in a little bit of disbelief right now. Scott Dixon is your 2015 Verizon IndyCar Series champion. And the team told him on the radio, and he said, I honestly I can't believe it. Hugs all around from the team. You see Barry Wanzer coming in.
Hey, Marty, how about
everybody a hug?
Marty, how about for Chris Simmons? Chris Simmons shed so many championships for Dario. This was their first year of being engineered driver together.
Correct. Worked out very well. Let's get Dixon in here. Coming into this morning, third in the championship, 47 points down. Honestly, how much of a chance did you give yourself?
There was still a chance, and that's what we were hoping for. And I just can't thank my teammates enough. All of them helped all weekend, all season long, in the closing, fight for this battle. And this is fantastic for Target. We had so many guests here. I think 400 or 500 guests here for Target. Obviously for Chevy as well. I don't know what to say. Obviously, thoughts and prayers firsthand to Justin Wilson's family, and Stefan's here as well, and
Emma with a big hug, and she's in disbelief as well, and a big kiss too. I think honestly you're in disbelief. The team told you, and you said I don't know what to say.
I don't know what to say, and there's just so many people to thank, and this season, we had some good races. Long Beach was the first for me, which was a big milestone. Indy was a massive disappointment just because I thought we had a car to beat until we had overheating issues. But once again, without obviously Target and Chevy have done a phenomenal job with this aero kit and the engine, the mileage, everything, which definitely helped us today. So. I still can't believe it. It was such a long shot to get this through, and I guess we won it on countback too for most wins. We tied with JPM, so sorry to them, but fantastic for the team.
I didn't hear Mike Hull once say anything about the championship scenarios. Did you know anything that was going on behind you and all the craziest with Juan catching Ryan Briscoe there?
Well, I could see coming out of, especially under caution, I was counting the cars coming around the hairpin to see where JPM was. I knew that I think at the first one he was back in 16th or 17th. We knew we had some team cars of his that might move out of the way. You constantly kind of know where they are, but, you're trying to calculate points as well. And then, if they were saying nothing, I knew it was going to be extremely close. But damn it, man, I can't believe it.
Chip Ganassi comes in. We got some hardware to hand out to this young man a little bit later. Lots of celebration. And honestly, Lee, a lot of disbelief down here. It's almost like they can't believe they actually pulled it off.
Look at that. Incredible scenes. How about that? Oh, the celebration begins. So, Dixon the champ, and you spare a thought for Montoya, of course, more than just a thought. So close. Will Power ended up leapfrogging Graham Rahal to get a top 3 spot in Helio Castroneves. Ryan Hunter-Reay with a late charge to finish 6th, considering how his season started. That was commendable. And Joseph Newgarden gets his career best result. Kanaan Andretti and Bourdais finish in the top 10. So some positives to take away there as well. But here's Kevin